Hello, wherever you are, and welcome to this recorded episode of Real Estate Safety. I'm Adam Contos, and I'm your presenter. You might be wondering, am I really doing everything I can to stay safe while selling real estate? Or maybe you're not wondering, and you know the answer is really, maybe not. You're also probably feeling like you don't really have the time to deal with it, and will just do your best each day while working. I get it. That's how most people in this business feel. You're taking calls, emails, and texts all the time. People want to meet for coffee or lunch. Everybody is trying to sell you something. Your car needs gas or the kids need to be driven somewhere. You're going to inspections, appraisals, listing presentations, and showing that difficult buyer every single home that comes on the market in their price range within 20 miles of their work. Yes, it's draining, but it can also be unsafe. Frankly, all it takes is one bad situation occurring and you're out of business and possibly out of life as well. And none of us want that. Unfortunately, some of your peers in this business are ending up in bad situations and falling victim to terrible crimes. These tragedies have claimed the lives of some wonderful people and left families in shambles due to the loss of a loved one. Not to mention the others that have survived these situations only to be permanently impacted physically and emotionally forever. This is serious. We need to do something about it, and it's up to every one of you to make a difference. Let's face it, you don't want to become a victim of crime or injured in an accident, and frankly, neither does your family and friends or your broker and clients. Bottom line, you need to have some clarity on how to be safe while working in the real estate industry. So what do you do to stay safer on this job? That's a great question, and I have some easy answers for you. Let me introduce myself and tell you where this information is coming from. My name is Adam Contos. I'm a former police officer, SWAT commander and SWAT instructor, United States Marine, firearms instructor, and lifelong learner of personal safety. I've been teaching personal professional safety for over 2 decades. I started by teaching police officers how not to get killed while doing their jobs, from the academy level all the way up to the SWAT level. I've also spent time traveling throughout North America to speak to over 10,000 real estate professionals on how to be safer on the job with the RE/MAX Safer program that I developed. What's really cool about this is that I've even had some of my students come up to me and say, "Hey, I took your program a while ago and I think it saved my life." How rewarding is that? My goal with the time we spend today on realtor safety is not only to help you avoid bad situations, but also to help you with picking up a little more time in your business. Sound good? All right, here's what we're going to learn. First, we're going to learn the 3 A's of safety. We'll talk about some tools and tactics to be safe and win in the event that you are attacked. And then we're going to get deep into some specific real estate related tips to help you be more safe during client interaction. So let's get started with the 3 A's of safety. These are really the foundation for safety. Simply, the 3 A's are aware, avoid, and act. Let's break these down. The first A is aware. This is defined as your ability to know what's going on around you. Specifically, notice changes, differences, obstacles, and dangers, as well as the actions and intentions of people around you. Now, this slide might show the brain of a realtor. How aware are you with all of these distractions? If you find yourself drifting into unawareness, consciously remind yourself, be aware. Even say it out loud. Here's a little game to play while you're in your car. Turn off the radio, get rid of the cell phone, and as you're driving down the road, say out loud, "I am aware. I am aware." Say it 5 or 6 times and watch what happens to your brain. You'll start to really intensely look around for things. It's really interesting. Hearing it in your own voice and not just your head will make a difference. Key point. First thing you have to do to truly be aware is eliminate all those distractions. Remember that. It's important. Darren Hardy, the publisher of Success Magazine, says our biggest addiction is our addiction to distraction. And he's right. Not only does that affect your safety, it affects your business. If you're busy working on Facebook and emails instead of actually doing business with clients, you're distracted from what actually makes you money and saves you time. Same thing with safety. As soon as you start engaging in those other activities that prevent you from being aware of the surroundings, guess what? You're compromising your safety. Don't be distracted. You have to try and consciously rid yourself of distractions and look around when you are somewhere other than sitting in the security of your office or home. Notice I didn't say sitting in your car or standing in the middle of a home you just walked into with a stranger. By the way, Lack of awareness or inattentiveness is the #1 reason for traffic accidents, otherwise known as the distracted driver. It just so happens that your brain can't do more than one conscious act at a time, and believe me, using your phone to dial, text, or whatever else you're trying to do takes your full attention. Don't text and drive. When you're driving, only drive. It may save your life or the life of someone else and prevent a career-ending situation. A key component to awareness is your gut instinct. This is actually a survival instinct provided to us since we are part of the food chain. Think of it as your distraction alarm. It's just like when you see a dog that is spooked. The hair on the back of their neck stands up and they become instantly alert. Just like when you feel creepy, the hair on the back of your neck goes up. Your stomach tenses and you become more alert. Gut instinct, this is telling you something. Do something. Be aware that you are most likely near a dangerous circumstance whether or not you recognize it. Your body does. Don't ignore it. Einstein said it best with this quote, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift." In other words, don't rationalize yourself out of listening to your gut instinct. It does mean something and it is important to your safety. Awareness is your first A. Remember it. The second A is avoid. Once you've noticed something wrong or potentially threatening, then you must create a game plan to avoid it. The bad thing can be someone's behavior, a threat, a hazardous place, or a suspicious person that you don't want to give an opportunity to. Essentially, once your awareness keys you in on a potential threat or a threat has begun, then you must quickly develop some options to avoid or deal with the threat. Then, implement one of those avoidance options. It's that simple. See a threat, develop a plan, then implement the plan to hopefully avoid the threat. Some of your options if you see a threat while walking down a sidewalk might be something like this. Cross the street, turn around and go the other way. Get back in your car and drive off. Regardless, your best action in a circumstance that you identify is putting you in a safety-sensitive situation is to avoid it. Remember, the best way to win the fight is to avoid it to begin with. That's the second A, avoid. Now the third A, act. Act is when you physically have to go do something. It might be to avoid, or it might be to fight to survive. There are several response categories that ACT fits under. Here they are. First one, no resistance. If they want your car keys, let them have them. You can get a new car. Second one, stalling for time. You may need to reposition yourself to fight or to wait until someone shows up that you are expecting. This isn't to say that you're not going to act, just not yet. The third one, distraction then flight. If somebody wants your wallet, toss it down then run. Getting hurt is not worth your wallet. The next one is verbal assertiveness. Be loud and in their face, overpowering and attracting attention. Yell, "Bring it on," or "Fire," or "Police." Usually works pretty well. The last one is physical resistance. Fight to win. This is really a big deal, since if you are attacked, this is generally what will happen. Remember, if you expect the world to be fair with you because you're fair with it, you're fooling yourself. That's like expecting a lion not to eat you because you did not eat it. Let's talk briefly about violence. Personal safety expert and instructor Tim Larkin has a great statement about violence. He says, "Leave if you wish to and if you can." Violence isn't always the answer. In fact, it's rarely the answer. But when it is the answer, it's the only answer. Use violence when you have no other choice. And once you start, you're not done until you finish it on your terms. In talking about violence, you're talking about the use of force against another human being. There are legal issues that you face in the process of this. Let's review some of those. The law says that you can only use reasonable and appropriate force in defending yourself or a third party. Keep that in mind. Is the force that you use reasonable and appropriate? It has to be in order to keep you out of legal trouble. Also, disengaging and getting away is always better than staying and fighting willingly. Get away when you can, fight when you have to. Also, know what's legal with respect to being armed if you choose to go that route. And if you are, have regular professional training. You will need to be good with a weapon to be effective, or it may be used against you. Don't take something with you thinking you're going to use it if you don't know how and you haven't been trained or practiced with it. That covers the third A, act. We've covered the 3 A's of personal safety now: aware, avoid, and act. Now let's talk about some tools and tactics. This is serious stuff. The things that I'm going to tell you could really hurt somebody badly. But if somebody's trying to hurt or kill you, then you have to defend yourself. Please remember, do it appropriately. What's important is that you need to know that you can fight off an attacker. It's not complicated. The idea behind it is to punish with some hard strikes specific areas of the human body over and over and over again, and do not ever give up until the attacker is done attacking you. Remember, your job is to prevent them from harming you. Obviously, the worst thing that can happen to you is that they're successful. The best thing is that you're successful. Now, before we get into talking about strikes, I want to share with you my secret weapon for personal safety. It's a powerful, high-quality, compact flashlight. It's exactly the same one seen here. In fact, I have used this exact flashlight to prevent from being mugged before. So how do you do that, you ask? How do you protect yourself with a flashlight? Well, first of all, obviously a flashlight doesn't work in the middle of the day out in the street where there's sunlight. The idea behind it is to take away one of the 3 things that somebody needs to fight. They either need eyesight, they need to be able to stand, and they need to be able to breathe. Using the flashlight, shining it in their eyes, and appearing more threatening than they want to deal with is the key to effectively using a light. Had people closed in close enough with me when they were trying to mug me, then that light becomes an incredible striking device, being able to strike them in the head, the jaw, the teeth, the nose, the forehead, any bony part of the body. If you can hit it with a hard object or a sharp object, you're going to be relatively effective against them. Speaking of striking the human body and making an impact enough to stop an attack or thwart an attack or slow it down, there are lots of other hard objects in society that you can use. You can even use like a soup can or something else like that that you find in a house. If you're in the kitchen, there are other objects that are potentially even more harmful, such as the butcher block or kitchen knives. Use what you need in order to fend off an attacker and protect yourself. Now let's take all that we've learned and put it into real estate specific situations. Here's a list of many of the different common situations that you'll end up with in real estate. This is just a bullet pointed list, but I'm going to go deeper into this. So let's go through it together. Let's start with that dangerous situation of meeting a new client. The first thing you want to do is get information from them on the phone to verify what they tell you in person. First, get their name, address, phone number, email, things like that. Tell them you're going to friend them on Facebook or on social media and to accept your friend request. Tell them that that's one of the ways that you can share listing information with them and make sure you find them what they want. And you like to share real estate tips on your page for your clients. Google them. This may or may not tell you about them, but it doesn't hurt and only takes a minute. It might tell you certain things as if they've been involved in a newspaper article or a restraining order or something of that nature. A lot of times stuff ends up online that people don't know about, talking about their background. Meet them at your office the first time, face to face. Have them do the following for you. Have them fill out a client survey form to save time and help them search for a home that's correct for them. Have a good form prepared to give you an overview of their needs, their family situation, pet needs, school needs, things like that. Take a photocopy of their driver's license. Also, pre-qualify them by getting the letter from their lender. This is important. In this market, why would you show a home to somebody who doesn't have a lender letter already? You can also touch base with that lender and make sure that this person is legit. Now, make sure the information that they gave you earlier on the phone is similar to what they just gave you. If it's not, do further research until you're comfortable that they are who they say they are. Strangely enough, all this stuff that I'm asking you to do doesn't take very long. If you sit down and hammer it out real quick and say, okay, here's what I need from you before I can take you out and show you the house, they'll provide it if they're legitimate. If they're not, they won't. Also, try to introduce them to someone else in the office. This person could be your backup if you need to have somebody else show them a house. Now, one last thing when meeting a client for the first time. Use your gut instinct. That gut instinct is extremely important. Why? Because if they're planning on doing something to you, they may still be truthful with giving you all the right information. But are they truly interested in buying a house? Go through all these steps and do what feels right. You don't have to work with these people. You can always refer this out or have somebody work even closer with you on this deal if you're concerned. Now, let's talk about showing a house. First of all, let someone know where you're going and who you'll be with. Second, have a predetermined code word to share with people at the office if there's a problem. Rehearse it so it doesn't alert the bad guy in case they make you take a check-in call on speakerphone. Have a time your office checks in with you, maybe a couple times during your scheduled showings. In fact, there are a lot of apps now for the smartphone that do a lot of this for you. And if there's a problem or you don't check in, they automatically make a phone call for you. There are several on the market, but you can go out and research them and try them out yourself to determine which ones you like. Some of them are about $10 or $19 a month, but frankly, what is your safety worth? It's definitely worth $10 or $20 a month, in my opinion. Also, when you're out showing houses, you might consider having your client drive themselves if possible after you've done the meeting at the office with them, unless you do trust them enough to spend time in the car with you. Then you can drive them. Also, when you get to the showing, be aware. This is when all the rest of that kicks in. This is when the bad things happen. Let's dig deeper into it. Here we go. You're pulling up to the house on a showing. What should you do? First, look at the street. Is there anyone loitering, looking suspicious, looking at you in a manner that gives you the creeps? Look at the house that you're going to see. Stand at the sidewalk and give it a once-over. Are there screens pried off? Is there sign of criminal activity? Are there dangerous circumstances or hiding places on the way to the house? Next, look around and determine any escape routes. If the house is being broken into or you need to escape quickly, how would you? Is there anyone outside you can run to for help, such as a neighbor washing their car or sitting out on a lawn chair? Make sure you notice those things. Also, look at your cell phone. Do you have a signal? Since you have it out, do you need to take a picture of the client's car and license plate to text it to anybody or to let anybody know where you're at the last minute? If you feel weird but are still committed to enter, should you put it in your headphones and call someone to be on the line with you while you go inside? Now you've approached the lockbox at the front door. Don't let the person hover above you while you open the lockbox or the front door. I know they're excited to go in and see this place, or they're excited to go in and assault you. So don't let them hover above you. Once you open the lockbox, make sure you take your flashlight out in one hand and put your keys in the other. Have that house key in your hand ready to go in order to lock the door again if it's a double deadbolt on the inside, or in order to use it as a weapon. Don't have your hands full of folders. Put folders in a bag over your shoulder or in a briefcase over your shoulder when walking around. So once you take the key out of the lockbox, keep it in your hand, open the door, hold the key, and as you walk in, if you're attacked, get close to the attacker. If you're attacked at this point, it's going to be a close attack. Get close to them and work their face with that key. Shove it in their eyes. Do something horrible that you would never want to do to a human being, to this person, to get away. It's a bad situation, and your job is to get away quickly and violently. Keep the key with you when you walk around in the house. You might need it later. It makes a great weapon anytime you might need it. Once you get in the house, lock the deadbolt. You've decided that this person is relatively safe that is with you, and you don't know the neighborhood or the house yet. So you've chosen to be more safe with this person than not with this person. So lock the deadbolt when you walk in. If it's your first time out with these clients, you don't have to walk through the house with them until you get to know them a little bit better. You, just like at an open house, you can stand in the main portion of the house and you can guide them from there. Tell them to go upstairs and look in the bedrooms or the bathroom or go down in the basement, things like that. Be separate from them in case something happens to either you or them by a third-party attacker. That way the other person can do something to help the group. That's the first time you're on a showing, or on any showing for that matter. Remember those things. Now, let's talk about open houses. First of all, my recommendation is don't do them. Crimes happen at open houses quite frequently, both to realtors and to homeowners. We all know how much an open house actually sells homes also, especially in this market. Don't do them alone if you do end up doing them. Try to have someone with you, an assistant, a mortgage or title rep, or really anyone else that's trying to get business from you and your clients. If you're both there, don't sit right next to each other in a corner someplace. That's the tendency. Holding two people at gunpoint or knife point is much more difficult if they are not right next to each other. Again, have the tools with you that you need, your flashlight, house key, have your cell phone, things like that. If you don't have pockets, prepare ahead of time and have a way to carry these things. How many times have you gone into an open house and there's the realtor's purse, wallet, whatever, folders, things like that spread out all over the table, their cell phone sitting there, the keys right there. They don't have any of the things with them that they need if they're attacked. If you have to use the restroom while you're at the open house, lock up the open house and then reopen once you're finished. Next, have the homeowner lock up or remove all valuables, jewelry, prescriptions, weapons, documents with personal information, or anything else they don't want taken. Have them sign something saying that they take responsibility for any of the items taken from their home that were not removed prior to the open house. This might deter them or give you a way to tell them it isn't a good idea. Know where the butcher block is, the cooking knives, things like that in the kitchen. Hide the butcher block so you know where it is. It may come in handy. But don't forget to pull it back out when you're done with the open house. You don't need to get the call from the seller saying, hey, I think someone stole my butcher block. And then you have to say, no, I hid it in the pantry. Of course, always have an escape route and know where it is. If a door's locked that you have to get through, only have the deadbolt locked so you can get out. You don't want to have to fidget with the doorknob lock in order to escape quickly. Obviously, as I said before, keep a key in your pocket. Also know if you have to scale a fence or climb anything to get out of an escape point. Are you prepared for this? Are you dressed for it? Know where the fire extinguisher is if they have one. This makes a great weapon and can blind an attacker or is a great striking device. Make sure your cell phone works and have headphones for it. Call someone if something suspicious is happening. Don't be afraid to call the police. If you do, the first thing you need to say is your location in an emergency. Have everyone that enters the open house sign in. Put up a sign saying the homeowner requests all visitors to sign in. It's their choice to do this. If someone refuses to sign in, kindly ask them to leave. If they won't leave or become belligerent, call the police. It is now trespassing. They probably weren't going to buy the house anyway. Of course, direct people around. Don't lead them through the house. You don't need to go everywhere with them, especially down into the deep, dark basement where they hide bodies. If something criminal is occurring, don't be the police. Be a witness. Your job isn't to stop or detain them. It's to file a good report. Don't go and get in their face thinking you're going to stop them from stealing the prescription medicine out of the house, because that druggie doesn't care what you're about to tell them. And frankly, you're standing between them and what they need. Don't be afraid to close up early or go outside and make a phone call if someone creepy shows up or is hanging around in the house. You're not tied to staying in that house. If you are in part of the house and it looks like things are going bad, pick up something to use as a weapon and get out. Fight your way out if attacked, but get out. If attacked, you need to get someplace that you can call for help. And if you're yelling and in the house, no one will hear you. Defend yourself before trying to dial your phone. There's no sense in getting beat up while you're trying to open your phone up and dial. And of course, as always, trust your gut instinct when it comes to anybody or any place in that open house. Now let's talk about a few other places that are safety sensitive. First one is listing presentations. You really want to run through kind of the same client awareness checklist on a listing presentation as if you get a new buyer client. Make sure you try and friend them on Facebook, Google them, look up their address, check them out as much as possible ahead of time, and trust your gut. Also, make sure you let someone know where you're going for that listing presentation. And really, if you sit down and it's a bad situation like a divorced or divorcing couple selling their house and it becomes contentious, get up and leave. You don't need to be there and be in a bad situation. Also, think about at the office. What are the safety sensitive things there? Make sure you lock up your valuables at the office. Have a drawer in your desk or someplace that you can lock up your valuables. Just don't leave them laying around and then wander off to the restroom or to get something to eat, because there are people that walk through offices and steal things. Keep your car keys in your pocket in case you have to go get in your car and leave in the event something bad is happening. And remember, always don't hesitate to call the police and trust your gut. Also, let's talk about parking lots, since you park in a parking lot when you go to the office and you're always in them when you're out and about doing your job. Remember, watch for people hiding between cars or people sitting in cars in somewhat of a suspicious manner. Are they sitting there watching you or watching someone else? Look in your back seat before you get in your car. Look under your car as you're approaching it, and have that flashlight handy. Also, being in your car in a parking lot is not where you can work. Don't sit there and do work. Go somewhere to do your work. Go in a coffee shop, go in an office, something like that. But don't do it sitting in your car. You're more vulnerable because you have less visibility in your car, and someone can come up to you and try and carjack your car or rob you, and they know that they have control of you because you can't get any place. Remember those things. Also, of course, use your gut instinct. When you're sitting in your car, walking through a parking lot, it's just as if you're out in the wild and there's a predator watching you. Remember that. We've gone through a lot today about your own personal safety while you're doing your job selling real estate. Just to touch on a couple things. First of all, remember the 3 A's of safety: aware, avoid, and act. Think about those tools and tactics. And don't forget the work checklist that puts you in all those different safety-sensitive situations while selling real estate. Also, please remember, go and download all this, and there's much more detail at www.adamcontos.com/safer. Don't forget, you can also find me on Twitter and Facebook. Until then, be safe.